is Alma Weiss. I'm from Pennsylvania. And when I married, I came out here in the country.
Okay, my name is Dorothy Clyden. I was born in Chicago, Illinois, the city of Chicago, and I stayed there until I married, and that's a long time ago.
Calvin, Calvin Miller, Miller, and I was born in Mason County, Illinois. 16.
I think I was 8 years old. 9, 10, 11, 12. No, more like maybe 9.
Nothing special, only I was drafted. I was drafted when I was 18.
Oh, hard things, because everything was rationed. My mom they had coupons for like sugar and certain things. I think we can get milk and bread without a coupon, but they called it a ration coupon. And I remember my age, the kids in grammar school, we were collecting paper, rubber, all kinds of things, rubber for the tires, I guess. So we saved all those things and took them to school, and then somebody would come to pick them up. And I remember once in the middle of a movie, I loved movies, I'd go as often as I could, the lights came on and the movie wasn't over, and then the women would be saying they were selling war bonds and stamps. And so they just walked up and down the aisles, and people would bring out their money and buy the stamps and the whatever. And that was our way of helping the boys. We always thought of them as boys over there. I think there might have been a song about that. And we hated the Japanese. We never called them Japanese. We always called them the Japs. And I think how awful, and now we have to remember that we don't want to call them anything like that. Terrible war.
My husband was in the service about 6 years. I didn't know him all that time.
Did I contribute?
Yeah.
Well, I was in the Navy for a couple of years on the Pacific. I was in the Pacific Theater of War, they call it. Well, we had Japanese submarines chasing our ships.
Just by collecting newspapers and things like that. And I could also tell you, when I was 10 years old, the boys that were 10 years old got jobs in any place they could get a job, because their men were all overseas. We had a big shortage of men during the war. My mother was working at the Signal Corps, where she packed boxes that were sent over to the war zone. And now I forgot. Oh, so what I did, I had a wagon, and I went to the newspaper office because they needed people to deliver newspaper. And I thought that I could make money. So I went, today all that's done, they bring it to your house practically. I had to go at least half a mile to pick up the papers, fold them, and we didn't put them in a plastic bag. We just actually rolled them up, and somehow we folded them over. I don't know how we did that, but it worked. And put them in my wagon and went back to my zone where I had to deliver the newspapers. And I felt like I was helping because there were not enough men to do the job.
Yeah.
But mainly it was collecting things and not eating things that the boys would want.
It changed it like 360 degrees from a civilian to a Navy sailor.
I think it affected me at all just when we were talking about it, or when, like, my mother had 5 brothers and they were all in the service. And when one was hurt, I remember her crying, and then I was afraid of that. And then my uncle, I would write to him, he was a Marine and he was stationed. Well, he couldn't tell me, but it was a very hot place. I think he said later on it was the Philippines when he came home, and he would kill a mosquito and leave it on the letter. And he would write, and so my mother made me write back, and I didn't like writing because I couldn't spell very well. Still can't. Well, my dad was drafted, but he didn't pass the physical, and they said, you got 4 children, go home. So he didn't go to the war. But I remember my mother crying. To me, the war was serious and scary. I was so glad that we didn't have it in America. The war was all over there, and I felt thankful for that.
My husband was Firestone.
Did you work?
I was a Bell telephone operator. I sure did work.
I worked one summer on the farm. Just 3 months between my junior and senior year. I worked there for $1.20 a day. And we started at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we finished about 6, 7 o'clock at night.
I delivered the Times. It wasn't the Sun Times then. It was just the Times newspaper. I did that for maybe 4 months. And then when winter came, I thought, I can't wheel my wagon in the snow, so I quit.
Remember how much you would get paid?
No, it was like nothing.
Nothing? Okay.
And we had to collect. I had to collect the money for that. They bring it over to that office, and people would, it was like a quarter. A lot of people said, I don't have enough money. I'd have to go back another day. It was a hard job. Much easier today.
No, I lived in the country. Yeah.
One other, a girl,
Okay.
my age.
What did I learn? I learned that I didn't like military life. And I learned that war is a terrible waste of life. And
The war experience. It's just that there can be problems in the world where people get killed. And I was always so thankful that we never had that. But our boys were getting killed. And I think only my uncle, one relative was killed in the war. So I that was the most profound experience.
when I married my childhood bride, I dated her since we were juniors in high school, and we were separated during the war. I had to go to the service, and she went into a 3-year nursing education program. And then when it was over with, got married. Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
You're going to laugh at this, but when the war was officially over with Japan, I think we won Germany first. Now Archer and California was a huge, it would be like State and Madison in Chicago, a very busy street. It filled up with people, and they were hugging each other and kissing, and I think I was 14 by that time. And some guy came up to me and kissed me and took off, and I thought, I just had my first kiss and I don't know who it was. So that was, I keep thinking about that, how funny that was, but people were so happy.
Well, my father worked on the Chicago and Northwestern Railroad for 42 years. My mother never worked outside the home.
Mother didn't work because she had 4 children to take care of, except that she did work during the war. She filled up boxes that were being sent to the war zones. She worked, it's called the Signal Corps, and she walked to work. It wasn't far from our home, and she worked evenings. My father was an insurance salesman at that time. He worked for Western and Southern. And it was like being a paper boy. He had to go and collect from the people. Now we mail everything in. So it was, plus he was supposed to try to get people to sign up and buy insurance from him. So it was a hard job.
I feel honored that I was able to serve my country. But I am not a hawk. I don't think everything can be settled with guns and bullets. which it can't because it's still going on. People are still killing each other.
Yeah.
Movies were, I just fell in love with the John Wayne movies. They were, oh, I just loved them. All my allowance went to movies. I didn't even want to buy candy. I just want to go to the movies. And I loved the movies because they were very romantic. And I won 30 seconds or 30 minutes over Tokyo was the one that bothered me the most because one of the pilots lost his foot. And when they crashed and the people, I guess it was the Chinese people, took them in, and the woman had made house slippers for all of them. And when she came up to him, he had one foot was missing. And she felt so bad, and I was sitting there crying. But there was romances, too, that made it. I love the movies. The movies were great. In black and white.